It's me! I'm the one out here putting the work in behind the scenes trying to save crypto while these devils, Sam Bankman-Fried, Brian Armstrong, they're trying to permanently ruin it. This is not about money for me. I hope you guys understand this. I am here fighting for you. You. It's me. This guy, with these freaking glasses on, this douchebag, is out here trying to tell you that only the suits know what to do. Only the suits. Only the people who have all the money. They're the ones who can determine what happens. No, our bill is for the people. And you're gonna find this out. I don't represent the people. The fuck I don't. The fuck I don't. I'm the one out here putting the work in behind the scenes trying to save crypto while these devils, they're trying to permanently ruin it.
Lil Bubble, let me ride that rocket.
Yeah! Woo! How's our audio?
Oh, geez.
Welcome back to another live stream. It is Saturday, January 21st, 2023. My name's Joe. We're here with Chris Bagnell. We will also have SMOKLM on this stream.
Absolutely.
We're going to talk about the criteria we use to vet new crypto projects, find out if it's a worthwhile investment for us, whether it be the coin, the token, or the hardware itself. Now, as always, this is not financial advice. Be sure to do your own research and consult with a trusted professional before acting on any of the information you may hear in this video. Now, Chris, how are you doing today?
That is Joe's opinion. If you guys want to take this as financial advice, Joe says it's okay. I'm kidding, guys. I'm doing great, Joe. We just got done streaming for about an hour. We're going on for another hour or so. So I'm excited to talk about that kind of stuff. We've been talking about this for a while, and I think this past bull run has given us a lot of experience. Not just you and me talking right now, but the people watching with projects that failed and what to look out for. And it's kind of like a trial and error space because this is a new area. So hopefully the information that we give you guys today can help you in the future determine whether or not a project is worthy of your time.
I'd like to welcome everyone to the stream in the audience. We are recording this for the Blockchain Bay podcast, so we're changing up the format a little bit. Where in the past, we tried to display all your comments. We will be displaying some comments, not all of them. We do welcome interaction, questions. I know all of you have a lot of experience, and you'll be reminding us along the way of different things to look at, the details that we might miss, and giving us your input, your feedback. So it's all appreciated. We will display some comments. However, we have a lot of material to get through today. I'm really excited for this. I see a lot of other people trying to do the same thing, but I don't think they have what we do.
They're not going to hit the nail on the head as well as we do.
Oh,
I'll tell you that much.
SMOKLM, thanks for being here.
Thanks for having me, guys. How you doing?
If you don't know him, he's one of our bros.
The three musketeers in the crypto space.
Yeah.
That all covered helium and found each other.
Yeah.
We found each other.
There were other scam projects along the way.
It's like a love story.
We became very familiar with each other. We did a lot of the in-depth research on these projects, and along the way, taking notes, running these ideas back and forth, and here we are. We're going to give it all to you for free. We don't have shit to sell you, but we hope it's going to be worth your time spent here in this live stream or video after you decide to watch it. We'll post it to all three of the channels.
Or podcast.
Blockchain Bay podcast, baby.
That's right.
Link to the Blockchain Bay. I will post that. I don't think it's in the description. However, I will post that, link it, pin it.
So where would you want to start with this kind of stuff? Do you want to talk about the kind of from a, I guess, retrospective perspective? That's not even a word. From a
let's not start with any particular projects. I know we will mention some along the way, but I think it's good to mention like all three of us are really in like what you call the alternative mining space. So Chris has done GPU and ASIC mining. I've done like a really little bit. I've mostly dabbled in the alternative space. I've purchased crypto along the way, all the different tokens and coins, but we're going to cover a little bit of everything. This is mostly applicable to the alternative space, but we will talk GPUs and ASICs as well. But we're not going to get so much into NFT projects, not so much DeFi or DAOs. We will cover a little bit. That will probably be a follow-on episode later on. But I think it's worthwhile to mention the type of scams that are out there and what we look for in these projects. So first and foremost, I know you guys are familiar with what a rug pull is, right? So a project, it starts off, they are going to promise you everything in the world. And this is every project. You have to have that marketing no matter who you are. It's going to be the latest and greatest thing. It's going to be every Fortune 500 engineer that's going to be working in that project to make it the moonshot. And it's every project's going to say that. That's the reality. And that's where the FOMO comes from. And then whether it's intentional or not, some of these projects end up being rug pulls. Whether they're trying to scam or not, it could always be like the developers say, hey, sorry, this ain't working out. Leadership sucks. The developers are not pulling their weight. My team sucks. We're out. Screw the community. Or it could have been a scam, a plot from the beginning.
I like to add that it could also not be, their fault. It could be a fault in their code that someone exploits too. So it's also the fact that some of these people don't know what they're doing, and that's something you also have to consider.
Yes. Real quick, audience, how is the music? Is it too loud again?
I hear it like it's a perfect level, personally.
Excellent. Yeah, so that's very common within the crypto space. Look, you're looking at code. It's just like any other app. How much do you trust the apps on your phone? How often do they work perfectly out of the box every time? That can be the case for any crypto project. This is code. So personally, like I said, this is not financial advice. I can't tell you what to do. I just tell you what I look for and what I do. And I hope that you'll take this methodology, do your own research, and apply it to what you do. And hey, give us input. Tell us how to make it better. Now, I'm you guys in the comments are funny. So you also have pump and dump, similar to a rug pull, but once again, it's going to have all the same details to it. It's the best thing in the world. It's going to be great. Right out of the box, it's hot, and teeth are off. That's it. Everyone who's holding bags gets screwed.
I would say a little addition to the pump and dump. I don't know if anyone else has experienced this. Maybe Joe, maybe SMOKLM. I've gotten tons of messages on Discord as well as tweets inviting me to servers or like closed off groups, and these groups are literally pumping and dumping, and they'll pick a coin, they'll pick it on this day, and it's crazy because there's actually a firing order on which people get to go first and buy the coin at the lowest price. So like, let's say they pick Dogecoin, but they won't pick Dogecoin. They'll pick kind of like a bad coin. And basically what they'll do is everyone will organize, okay, on this day, everyone's going to tweet about this coin. And you can see this on Twitter a lot of times. You'll see one tweet. It's like 40K ETH is trending with 40,000 tweets. It's like, why is this trending? And it's usually, a pump and dump scheme. And they have a firing order, so the people that are organizing it all will know the token before it obviously goes off. So they're going to buy a bunch of the token. And then they're going to hold that token until the day where they decide they're going to pump it. And they're going to inform everybody, we're letting you know. They inform probably everybody five minutes before. All they do is they tell them what exchange it's going to be on. So they'll tell you, okay, it's going to be on Binance.com, not Binance US, or KuCoin, whatever it may be. And they have this coin, everyone buys into it. Then the CEOs and everyone that's organizing everything, they're not really CEOs, but just for the sake of this argument, they'll sell everything, they'll make a ton, they'll keep building, and this goes on forever. And the issue is that there are so many of these schemes going on that it is additionally, they're not all in the US, so you can't catch all these people. There's going to be people that are going to be making millions off of this for the rest of their lives, and I don't think they're going to face any repercussions because it's not enforced.
I mean, I got rug pulled from like an NFT project earlier last year, and so eventually the person that was making the project like just said, yeah, well, our liquidity manager failed. It wasn't a rug pull.
Yeah.
When you see a token go down like 100% inside of an hour, and then you can't sell your tokens because there's no more liquidity available. That's not fun. And this was like an NFT project with trees that was promoted by a different YouTuber. I'm not going to name anyone, but obviously like this. I mean, I messed up once, right? I promoted a scam on my channel that really sucked.
Yeah.
I did everything I could do to like get back to people that were affected and whatnot, but that's why I think we're doing this live stream today and explaining to people how exactly now to do crypto research to avoid all of these things.
Yeah, no, good point. It could happen to anyone. Like I said before, I don't fault you for that, and not everyone has the in-depth technical knowledge that maybe I have or some of the other people in the space have, and you just can't fault them for that. Now you will see YouTube influencers and the thought leaders and the gurus that they're going to promote anything that they can. They want to be first to tell everyone about a project that they've already gotten into, and they don't even have to take money for it. We know people who do this that's just what they do. They want to come off as, you know, the Dora the Explorer. They're the first to find it, but they have not done their due diligence, and due diligence takes weeks, months, sometimes years to truly get to. If you're really talking getting 100% down to the nitty gritty, you have to look at the code. So we're going to continue down the list. But go ahead.
I think a good rule of thumb, if you're looking at a new project, is its ranking on CoinMarketCap or on CoinGecko, and look at the market cap, because that's all vetted information and it's all been submitted to them, and they approve these projects to be put on their website. So me, for a good rule of thumb, like obviously new companies aren't going to be in the top 100, but if you're like, you see a coin and it's in the top 100, it's a lot safer than you know, anime coin 556 or whatever. Like, just
and something I'd like to mention are two things here. The ones that your friends talk about, the ones that people might be expert. I've heard so many people say, well, my friend was just talking relentlessly about this specific token, this coin, so that's why I bought it, but it's not really done much since then. I hate to be the bearer of bad news and dunk on your friends, but there's a good chance that they really don't know. They were told by someone else, and they might have had a good experience during the beginning, but that's not indicative of future performance, right? The other thing is, I know a lot of people who have like these blockchain trackers, and they say, I want to catch it as soon as it comes on the blockchain and purchase it. And this is after like what would be a private initial coin offering. They go and purchase it. Well, when it first hits the blockchain, the price is typically at least 100% higher than it would be the following weeks and months. Another thing to watch out for. So I don't use that as part of my strategy personally. I think it's a poor strategy. However, some people have had good luck with it. So I have to give that disclaimer.
I don't know if this is going to come up later in the stream, but something I see comical is if you go on Twitter, if you go on CoinMarketCap and look at like the talking section, there are thousands of people promoting their projects as well as trying to predict the price of coins. Ladies and gentlemen, no one knows what the price of it is going to be tomorrow or the day after. It's the same as you going wondering if you should get gas before or after work because you're scared the price is going to go up. It's a 50-50 chance it's going to go up or down. Like you can't predict that kind of stuff. So it's just, there's so many people that gain massive followings over information that they don't know to be true. Now you can increase the probability of it being correct by looking at statistics and looking at, you know, historically accurate information. Like, yes, after halving, traditionally the price goes up. So after the next Litecoin halving, we can make a safer estimation that Litecoin is going to go up, but it's not 100% accurate. It's just something to consider. Moving forward, Joe, what else?
Another one I wanted to cover is Ponzi. Some people might call it pyramid. There's a way to differentiate it. But what I would consider a massive red flag when it comes to identifying a Ponzi would be the amount of staking that has to be done. Now, there are legitimate uses for staking in the crypto sphere and the specific ecosystems of whatever chain, whatever coin, whatever token that it may be, which we'll talk about more in depth later on. But if it's only constant and consistent, let's say both incentivized to stake and decentivized to withdraw your funds and cash out, there's a good chance it could be a Ponzi. And we've seen that before with projects that people would even consider to be a success. Now, do some people like this model? They believe that because it incentivizes people to hold or to hodl, that the early comers are rewarded first, but it keeps the token price consistent. Sure, there are people that like it. So that's a disclaimer to it. Maybe you're one of the people who like it and you have a reasoning for it. But I find it to be a red flag personally, because that's like artificial inflation. That's being held up by incentivizing and disincentivizing improportionally to what the utility is. Now, real quick, I think we should differentiate between a coin and a token, because I know people use these terms very loosely and they don't really understand what is what. But a coin is one that it's typically mined by CPUs, GPUs, ASICs, FPGAs, and it has a native blockchain, right? You're rewarded in a coin for it having a layer 1 blockchain. Now, a token is typically another hold of value, but it lives on a blockchain, but you're not necessarily mining it by participating in a consensus mechanism, which is what's giving you the blockchain ledger, right? So if an example of this would be, currently we'll use Helium. Helium has their own blockchain. The validators are the ones, although they're proof of stake, they're considered mining because they're producing that blockchain. They're keeping track of those rewards, the transactions that happen on the chain between the hotspots. I would say the hotspots are earning because they're no longer participating in consensus groups. Now, prior, when they were participating in consensus groups, you could call them a miner, but that's no longer. But when Helium goes to Solana as their native layer 1 blockchain, they're going to be considered a token. That's when it will truly be Helium Network Token, HNT. But the easiest way to figure it out is it on, does it have its native blockchain, coin or token? Well, Bitcoin, coin, right? So a token would be something like SHIB. You're not necessarily mining it, right? And what you'll see with tokens, there's different ways to earn, there's different ways it's distributed, and it's primarily done through smart contracts. And that's where you really audit the code, where you can figure out how is this being divvied out and how can it change. Of course, it can change with the blockchain, but typically you'll find a lot of them that they can change, but a lot of times they're set in stone. They have emissions that are really hard glued to the performance of the blockchain.
You want me to throw you a ringer here, Joe?
Go ahead.
What's crazy is that you actually can mine SHIB with unmineable.
Really?
Which
How do you
is
do that?
So with unmineable, you can pretty much mine any coin that they support, and they have I want to say hundreds of coins that you can choose from. And basically, do you guys know what Nice Hash is?
Yep. I mean, I used to run Nice Hash for like months.
Okay, so it's pretty much exactly the same as Nice Hash, except that you're using your hash
on Ethereum.
Yeah. So you're not mining the coin directly.
You're mining it. What are you mining, and are they paying you out in SHIB?
That's what it is. You're giving your hash power, and they're paying you out. But,
okay. Yeah. So just because you get a payout in a different token doesn't mean you're necessarily mining.
Yes.
That as a
but
coin.
It's awesome because it opens up the door for some people that, like, let's say I have SHIB, or I want to get SHIB and I don't have an exchange that supports SHIB, but I have a wallet that supports SHIB. how am I going to get cheap? I'm going to use my hashing power and redirect it towards unmineable and use their special payout function to get cheap. So
obviously, depending on where you're located, it's going to be profitable or not.
Exactly, and for some people, it's not even about that. They just want to get some coin. So
yeah.
Now, when we're looking at different projects, we're trying to figure out what is worthwhile, what has substance behind it. And the very first one that the majority of people tell you is, what is the utility? What is the use case? What problem does it solve? So when it's a coin, it is basically a blockchain is a real-time database where every change you can see within the next block. So it's an open ledger in the most cases, unless it's a private blockchain, where you can see those transactions based on the wallet or based on the device. But then you have other ones that they might need a layer 2 solution, or maybe they're just using layer 1 solution for tracking. But you have stuff like, okay, Hive Mapper would be a good example. The dash cam, where you earn honey tokens, and what they're trying to do is rival something like Google Maps. All right, we're having issues with the music, so we're going
Should we just
use the
cut out
music.
the music?
yeah.
That's a buzzkill for me, but we'll continue. So Hive Mapper, you're earning honey tokens for driving, and you have a dash cam that is getting the imagery, and it's being saved to your phone. Then it's uploaded and it's parsed, where companies can go and pull that map data, and now it's crowdsourced. So all these people have these cameras in their car, and while they're driving, just grabbing road imagery, and companies can use this. That would be considered utility. That's the use case. That is where the value comes from, that is pumped into the system through people buying that data. Similar with Helium, where it's an open network for the Internet of Things devices that are LoRaWAN compatible. To utilize the network, you have to pay in data credits. So when people put devices on that massive global network, and you have to pay for every transaction, that is where the value is coming from theoretically. Now, of course, there's going to be speculation on the token. People who find these projects to be good ideas, they're going to buy the token, and that is what is going to make the price increase in value as well. Anything to add, gentlemen?
These are the kind of projects that personally I like to gravitate towards. Stuff that isn't going to use a lot of electricity, is like an alternate way of mining. Like anything that I think the three of us are into, like Helium. I know, Joe, you already have a Hive Map or dash cam. You started earning with that. Chris and I are still eventually waiting on ours. But yeah, anything like that where, Chris got an ASIC miner, right? But anything like that is super interesting to me. Like in France, electricity prices are crazy high, so there's going to be no ASIC mining for me. But yeah, love those projects.
The way you could also look at it is, how's the temperature in France? Is it like cold? Are there any cold times of the year?
2 degrees Celsius, so like almost, I guess, like 36, 37 Fahrenheit.
I think it's really.
It's like right above freezing level.
I think okay. Anyway, the way you could kind of argue it in your mind for having an ASIC in a cold environment is that it can heat your house, and at the same time you're heating your house, you're earning crypto versus just eating electricity using, like right now we just moved and now we have a standard electric heater. We don't use oil anymore. So, countering that, and it's so easy to drill a hole into your HVAC system and mount a vent and just pump all of that hot air in. And it's pretty cool. You're basically heating your house with crypto. And that's just awesome.
It makes a lot of sense, like in the winter and stuff.
Yeah.
Especially in like, as I said, France, electricity is crazy. I was talking with my father the other day. He was like, yeah, I spent 500 euros, around like $530 on electricity last month. And that's pretty much just all heating.
Yeah.
So yeah, if we even saw a couple like electric heaters that would mine Bitcoin, right? except
Yes. Yeah, but they're
except,
ridiculously expensive. I
they're
saw those.
ridiculously expensive. They're not that profitable.
Yep. They're like S9s pretty much. It's
But still a great secondary utility. So you're
Yeah.
you're helping with consensus, but you're also heating your home, which, you know, in however you want to calculate it, that is helping you turn a profit or at least reduce the overall electricity bill, if you want to look at it that way.
Do you guys know the coldest city in the world in Russia?
The minus 50 city or something.
Yeah, it's like having like ASICs there would be incredible.
Because correct me if I'm wrong, but like basically, as long as you keep the heat low, you can just keep like pushing it harder, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So yeah,
That's
put
why-
it outside of minus 50, man.
It's the same thing as overclocking for video games kind of thing.
Yeah.
If it gets too hot, your computer will crash. It's exactly the same thing.
Okay.
So like if I were to run, 5 A6, or if I were to run an L7, which instead of 2 fans now it has 4 fans and it's a lot more powerful, it would heat up very quickly, and there's no real ventilation for me in my situation. So I had to be careful with the type of power and heat that I'm drawing. But at the same time, I could have, one L7 and one L3 plus, or I could have 13 GPUs. Unfortunately, the GPUs are just going to draw a lot more electricity at this point.
Yeah, but they'll probably have like more resale value when you're done with them than the A6.
That's something also to consider. If you were to buy one of these A6 during the bull run, 100%, I agree with you. But right now, in the bear market, I think it is an investment, in my opinion, that I bought my L3 Plus, because looking at historically what just happened, and this is the argument I was just making. This is all probabilities. There's no guarantee that this is going to happen, but I am, hedging or betting against the price of my ASIC going up in value like it just did the previous one, because the ASICs were selling for a couple grand, and now it's $300. So it's something you have to take into consideration, as well as the coin you're getting. That's another thing that is a really big deterrent for ASICs, is because it only mines one algorithm. Unless you make an FPGA card, which those are just like, well, there's not enough traction on those things. And I think those are like the type of lineup. But
I mean, if you have like the funds available to keep an unprofitable like ASIC mining during like the bear market, I think it might be one of the better options, because a lot of people are just going to unplug them. But eventually, when the token or the coin you're mining goes like 3x, 4x, then it'll have been widely profitable.
Oh yeah, and like, so right now I can mine Dogecoin and Litecoin. I have a script-based miner, and the fact that Dogecoin I think is always going to be around because it's a meme coin and people just love it so much. And Litecoin, it seems like they're finally starting to get their traction that they deserved. They were kind of forgotten in this past bull run, and I've always been Litecoin was, I think, the first coin I actually bought back in 2017. So it's cool to see it's still being around, number one, because that's huge. The fact that it survived these cycles, and it's stayed relatively good with the price point. It hasn't fluctuated like ridiculously. And then, like you said, if Litecoin goes up in value, this ASIC is going to be significantly more valuable. It's going to be a lot more profitable, and it's going to sell more. That's just plain simple. So, I'm looking at it as an investment, not only so that I can mine Litecoin right now, and I think it eats like $30 a month, which is nothing. And I'll obviously know after I get this first power bill, but to me, it's easier in my mind to pay $30 a month and get $50 in Litecoin versus just outright buying Litecoin, because I don't think I would personally allocate those funds to buy the coin. I think I would be like, oh, I'm going to use this money to buy, go out for dinner one night or something like that. So kind of just changing how it, like making it something that I have to pay, like a subscription. It makes it easier for me to take a hit on the electricity cost and get some more coins. If the price goes up, it's gonna benefit me.
Yeah, and I mean, I reached out to them yesterday. I saw your friend Andy's video about a project called Spritz that lets you like pay your bills in crypto. So like,
awesome,
and it's like one day. So your off ramp, instead of like taking a week to turn your crypto into like money in your bank account, it's legit like same day. So
Yeah.
you'll be able to like pay your electricity bill with what you've mined eventually. And so that just even like takes away the thing of feeling like you're putting money into the electricity to get some tokens back, because you can use like the difference in tokens that you've actually mined to like pay for your electricity bill now.
Yeah, that's awesome. And you can also use like it's kind of difficult with the exchanges just collapsing left and right, but can't use FTX cards anymore if they had them. But there's BlockFi, can't use that. Crypto.com has their card. Coinbase has a card. The use cases are growing, guys, and all of these coins that are supported by Coinbase, which is, I think it's got to be like the largest, easiest to use exchange in the U.S. It's really creating that solid foundation that I think when the next bull run comes, and this is the perfect time for us too, because all these projects that are like struggling or they're still surviving through the bull run, through the bear market, they're going to do well in the bull run. But I completely lost what I was going to say. So, Joe, is there?
Yeah, I think we're going to see a lot more of that adoption for utilizing crypto to pay bills. I know in Florida, they're allowing people to pay taxes in Bitcoin, which I think is great. Let's keep going on with subject matter. Unless you want to read that comment off from Chris Henry.
I just like to read that real quick. He said, sorry to jump in, but I used a Coinbase card to pay electric and returned 4% on it. Also use all the rewards through the month to supplement as well. I haven't looked at the Coinbase card very much, but I did get the Crypto.com Jade Green. And I am in the process of switching over to like a Binance card just because, I mean, I'll have a video coming out on all this.
Because you can use Binance.com. They don't have that in the US.
Yeah, I got that. See, we're on the other side of the pond where they let us do more stuff.
Yeah.
I'm kidding.
I miss those days, man. Binance.com is way better than Binance.us. I've gone on that website a couple times. It's like a completely different ecosystem. If you guys ever want to check it out, like even if you don't plan on putting money in there, like get a VPN, log on, create an account, just see what it's like. It's like night and day difference.
Know your customer KYC for that. So that
just to create an account, I don't think you do, but to deposit and withdraw, you're going to need that.
But on that note, even with like know your customer. So, well, first off, I would recommend getting all your coins and tokens off any sort of centralized exchange, any of those big apps. If we haven't already learned our lesson from what happened with FTX, you are the guarantor of basically their debt. If they go bankrupt, your assets are now on their balance sheet. Your crypto is theirs. That's what they have to pay out. That's what they have to sell off to pay their investors who bought into their company. That's what's in the fine print that you aren't reading when you sign up. So get yourself a software wallet, get yourself a ledger, find something alternative.
I love this little thing, dude. I love this thing so much.
Yeah, they're so great. I got a ledger myself a couple months ago, and they're awesome. There's a sorry, go for it.
No, something I think that is so unique about this, and I don't know if the ledger does it too, but it's so cool. Like, so I bought this little keychain, and it's a USB-C to USB-A, so it's so tiny. I can store it on my keychain, but I don't want to. I just keep this at home, but the security features on this is so cool, and I wish it was implemented in more situations. Like I wish we could kind of do this on MetaMask. The pin that pops up, it changes the numbers every single time. So the numbers are in a different place, which is really cool. And there's a whole bunch of customizational features on this. I can't really plug it in and show you guys just because the cord's so short, but I put the Blockchain Bay logo as the logo on here when it boots up. It's just like, it's so cool. And every time you want to deposit something into your account, you can choose to make a new address, which is huge. The live stream we talked about, I think a couple of weeks ago with quantum computing, this is a huge defector. I don't know. I just use big words to sound smart sometimes. It's going to help so much because you're going to be able to have a different receiving address every single time you want a transaction, which is how it was supposed to be in the very beginning with Bitcoin Core, Litecoin Core, etc. And you can choose to keep the same address. So right now I have one address that's set. So every time I mine, it's sending to this address and it will tell me how much I've received through that address, but that's not where the address is. That's not where the funds are stored. They're stored on here. So it's It's awesome. It's stored with my private keys. And no one's ever going to have access to this as long as my keys are kept offline, which is beautiful. Versus an exchange, Robinhood, I don't know. They should go bankrupt. They suck.
Robin who? Yeah. They're assholes.
It's like they have complete control over the market. During the AMC.
I mean, it is market manipulation, literally, to not allow people to sell,
not buy or
buy.
sell. Yeah, like with AMC and GameStop, they just
entirely market manipulation.
And they had, their court hearing, and they just like slap on the wrist. That's it.
There's I wanted to talk about this, bounce back off of what you just said about exchanges and what Joe said earlier about like the fine prints. If you go on r/cryptocurrency, I believe there's one guy that is reading the terms and conditions of every major crypto exchange lately and summarizing them. And so he did it for OKX the other day. And I was just like, before bed, I was on my phone and reading through. And apparently OKX changed their terms and conditions to where it said, if we go bankrupt, basically you're kind of fucked. And we will not owe you your funds back. We will not be in like capacity to like give you your funds.
And that's Reddit, right? That's Reddit.
Yeah, that's on Reddit. And so there's this dude going like through every single exchange's fine print. And I think it's really interesting because, well, nobody reads those, right? Most of the time. And the fact that
down to the bottom, press accept.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, oh, you see the little thing and tick, and yeah, sure, I want to move my crypto. Let me get on this exchange. But with everything that's happened with like Celsius, FTX, Voyager, we're seeing a lot of these exchanges changing their terms of service. And also, I saw this on Twitter a couple months back. I think it was Kraken. Kraken was like, had a sponsored post on Twitter. So they're paying to advertise this to people about their like proof of reserves, right? And I found that pretty funny. Like the fact that they're actually running marketing on, hey guys, we have reserves. It's just come to a point where these exchanges are acting like regular banks where they'll have fractional reserves, but never entirely have all your money.
Well, I think that's a good thing. That's their social responsibilities. They're trying to get ahead of the curve and try and beat these regulations before the regulations get in place so that they don't get penalized, but also they can say, hey, listen, we were following these standards before they were set in place. And that's why I think Binance adopted this too, because they see this coming, especially with the massive fallout with FTX. There's going to be regulation put into place in the US, and I'm sure it will be adopted around the world in like first world countries, with these companies having to have their reserves for people so that anytime I'm able to withdraw my funds. And maybe it would be amazing in the future if these exchanges were able to actually allow users to have their keys, because that would just change everything. That would make everyone feel so secure. At that point, if an exchange fell, I could take my keys, put it into a decentralized wallet, and take everything out. And that's
If they're I'm not sure, Joe might know about this. If there's a way to like create like imagine an exchange that just had like a cold wallet for every single customer.
You know what's funny is BlockFi actually advertised that all of the funds stored on their site are mostly stored in cold wallets, and yet they still filed for bankruptcy, and my funds are still locked in there. And they did just file, and it's only like $500. I'm saying only, but that's a significant amount of money for me. I'm just trying to downplay it. They're saying that they're filing with the court to try and allow users to withdraw their funds. It's just like, it just pisses me off.
Yeah. So we do have a comment here from Crypto Perks. He says, keep your own cold wallet and forget about it on the exchange. So you do have to use an exchange if you want to get your money out. Like if you are actively mining, say GPU, ASIC, or if it's like something like I'm doing with Hive Mapper, you still, if you want to convert it to fiat, you need to be able to get it out. Chris, is there something like that?
That's not entirely true, man.
Back in the day in Europe. Sorry, go for it.
You can shift it to Bitcoin and take it to a Bitcoin ATM.
Well,
that's what I was going to say. Back in the day, and they had those in Belgium, and I had a friend that would drive every weekend up to Belgium just to take out cash, and eventually those got banned.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Bitcoin
So,
ATMs are everywhere, and you can do it
Either
completely
way,
anonymously.
you can do that. Go to a Bitcoin ATM, but I mean, some people are still going to use the exchanges. I'm saying if you're going to keep crypto in an account for a prolonged period of time, you're going to want it in a cold wallet, not on a centralized exchange.
There is an
So
issue with that.
let's go ahead.
There's an issue with
Elaborate.
that for a lot of the coins. So the issue is that most standard wallets, like most standard hardware wallets, cold wallets, like the Trezor, it pretty much only supports the major coins, Ethereum, Litecoin, and like all of the older coins. So it has a Digibyte, Bitcoin, Dogecoin, but there's no Shiba, there's no BNB, and
MetaMask.
there's also yes, but there's also no support for any of the tokens on that chain. So if I have Dogecoin or USDC on BNB or on Binance Smart Chain, there's no support for that on these directly. Now, the way you can actually work around this, and this is awesome, this is integrated with MetaMask, is I can actually connect my hardware wallet directly to MetaMask, Trezor, or Ledger, and it gives you a generated address, and you can send all your funds to that specific address. And then all your funds are on this device. So it's not as simple as you think it would be. Because when I go online and I search at the supported coins for this, it tells you, okay, it supports all these coins, but it only supports for ERC20, which is Ethereum. So there's workarounds. And yes, Exodus is huge. I use Exodus for pretty much all of my funds that I keep off exchanges. Exodus and then this guy.
So let's continue through the subject matter we have kind of outlined here. So we talked about utility, and utility is very obvious in some cases. And what are we playing music again?
No.
I don't know what that was. All right. So as we were talking about with utility use case, what is the market potential in that? What is, like, if you were to quantify it based on economy of value, what if you were to say, okay, Hive Mapper, they say that there's a $300 million a year use case in mapping. Something like Helium, there's a incoming $1 trillion economy for IoT devices, and LoRaWAN is a fractional part of that. What is the projected economy in that? And it's very hard to make that analysis on how much of that network would actually be used, as far as actual companies, people utilizing it for its use case, and to quantify the value in dollars and how that would translate into the token price. However, it would give you might be able to get somewhat of a good idea, somewhat of a prediction of how well that use case is. Now, you have to also consider with Web3, we're still very, very early in adoption. So as we just seen with something like Flux, we've seen a massive pickup in use of that network, where maybe a couple months ago, not so much. We didn't actually see a whole lot of use case, where Flux, they're trying to do similar to what Amazon Web Services is doing, except it's decentralized hosting. You can stand up a node anywhere in the world. You don't have to pay an absorbent fee to one of the tech giants and be reliant on their network. You have different options with much of the same technology when it comes to cloud hosting. But who's using the product as of current? What companies are using it? Are people actually using it? And what is the forecasted use of that? And I would not, I would take everything anyone in this space says with a grain of salt. Everyone on YouTube is a price analyst, because that's what gets the click. People want to hear about the price prediction, but nobody actually knows, unless they tell you their metrics that they're using, unless they're spreadsheeting it out and showing you up front how they've come to that conclusion. I would not take it at face value, because they're throwing it moonshot.
Drawing lines on charts does not equal smarts.
I mean, I can draw a dinosaur, You see that meme of the dude drawing like a dinosaur on the chart and being like, "This is my TA stuff's going to the moon."
Oh, exactly. But I mean, that's about as good of a bet. And since we're on that subject, during a bull market, during the super cycle, if you want to call it that, everything increases in value. A lot of it has to do with oracles. A lot of it has to do with there's just demand that comes into these exchanges to purchase these coins because everyone's excited about crypto now. Everything is going to pump. That does not necessarily mean that it's an indication of success. It's an indication of confidence as it would with something like the stock market, right? But so many people conflate that, especially the ones who are new to the crypto space. They come and say, "Well, this coin's pumping. It must be a good product. It must be great. Everyone's using it." That's not necessarily the case when it comes to the demand on the exchanges and the oracles in the blockchain, the price of exchange, etc.
Look at Shiba, for example.
What's it do?
I mean, any of the
Other than
meme
be
coins,
cute.
they don't really do anything. At least for me, like I don't find any real utility in them, so I tend to stay away. But
Elon Doge, Doge Mars.
You would think that would be, the smart and most obvious train of thought with people, but that's not necessarily the case. And that's like a drawback for someone like me, where I feel I'm highly technical because of my background. I would think, okay, people are going to use something that has real world use in a technical fashion. That's not the case. That's not how everyone thinks. So taking your preconceived notions out of your train of thought is sometimes a good reflection. It's a better practice, as I found out. Personally, I don't relate to average people very well, so a little bit different where you might look, once again, not financial advice, but betting on meme coins might be the safer bet because that's what the majority of people understand. That's what they want to go to.
yeah, I don't really like them. I know,
don't
like
either.
one of my mods, Conrad, has a whole bunch of like a SHIB and Doge. But yeah, the most I've ever owned, I think, was like $10 of SHIB. And
I think Dogecoin still has potential.
I mean, the thing with Dogecoin is Elon Musk, right? Because I mean, I talked about it a little bit earlier, but that is 100% market manipulation. If you were to do stuff and say stuff like that with like stocks, you'd get in trouble,
Yeah, but you could argue like he likes it, and he's just sharing his thoughts. He's not telling anybody to buy Doge. It's all how it's interpreted.
That's true. That's true. But then if he really likes it, I want to see him do something about it with Twitter or like bring utility to it.
It's different.
Looking at Doge, I mean, Doge is not just a meme coin because it has it has a blockchain. It's a layer 1. So there is utility to it, and it can be further developed on to hold the whole ecosystem of whatever it may be for that use case. However, it's certainly still a meme coin.
I was going to say it's Elon Musk tweeting about Doge is different than Jake Paul saying, buy Shiba, like straight up saying buy Shiba. Like,
yes.
And that's,
I mean, it's also not the same audience, like Jake Paul's audience grew up a little bit now, but they're probably still like teens and
they're like my age. Yeah.
Early
I'll be back
20s.
in one moment. Keep the discussion going.
All right.
And well, I mean, it's very different from Elon Musk. That's probably listened to by a different crowd. Sure, there's some like teens and whatnot, but yeah, I wouldn't necessarily call. I wouldn't call at all Logan Paul a crypto content creator.
Yeah, they're just going with the flow kind of thing.
Yeah, it's like, hey, there's a lot of money in this stuff. It's pretty easy to like run a scam and not necessarily get hit for it, or run a project, take some money and forget about the project. He did that spring thing. I think the whole group did a couple things. The Atlanta Rhodes did like an NFT thing, and she was like, "Oh, this is too much negativity. I'm out."
Yeah.
And then
after collecting all the money, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. It's like those people give like a bad rap to the space we're in, and I think that's kind of sad.
The guy from Wolf of Wall Street, I forget his name, but he said that the gears of justice grind slowly, but they do grind, and they will catch you. So
Jordan Belfort, yeah.
Yes. So you have to, like, these people think they're untouchable because they haven't been caught. They haven't been held responsible. But there is a storm coming with all of this regulation that I don't fear. I'm kind of embracing because it's going to make crypto a better commodity, if you want to call it that. And these people are going to be held responsible for their actions. And I think the biggest thing is, I think Jake Paul knows that, or not Jake Paul, Logan Paul with his egg game or whatever. That
Crypto Zoo.
Yeah, I think he knows that he could be facing some serious issues if that doesn't go through.
They would love to make an example out of him because he's a big name.
Yeah.
Where if he gets arrested, look, because there's not a lot of regulation in the crypto space. Yeah, a lot of people are getting away with doing things that would otherwise be considered illegal. That's going to change, and they are going to make examples of people. Just because it's not a regulated space doesn't mean they can't use the clause of some other law to catch you.
Oh yeah.
Look, there's a saying, show me the person and I'll show you the crime. That's applicable around the world. But on the note of regulation, what I will say, when we see these regulations, you can see it from different points of view. Personally, I'm not a fan of regulation in the vast majority of cases. I think it's very overreaching when it comes to government. Bureaucrats that have no idea what they're talking about. These people, they're from a totally different generation. They see the world from their point of view, and that's the way they want to regulate it. And the only thing that is going to change their mind is showing them the money. Okay. And we can talk about SBF and all that later on. But the point I'm trying to get at here is we're going to see a lot more interest come into the crypto space when that regulation happens. We're going to see a lot more investment from the big names. Now, there are some like Hedera. I would say it's an excellent project because they're trying to adhere to regulation. They're trying to work not only with big tech names, but work with the government in bringing a very well developed, stable project for big name companies to use. I think it's excellent, and I would say, personally, my opinion, it's a safe bet. We're going to see a lot more projects like that emerge when there is more regulation, because now there are guidelines to adhere to for lawyers to check off each tick mark within these corporate, these corporate companies who want to get into the crypto blockchain space. So there's certainly that regulation won't necessarily be a bad thing unless it's so overreaching. They're trying to stomp out crypto in total because it threatens our current financial structure, which it does. It threatens the powers that be. And do I believe it will change everything? I certainly do. I think it will change a lot. Not as soon as everyone thinks, but it certainly does. So don't necessarily buy into the FOMO. It's going to change the world, guys. Slowly but surely, yes. But the people who espouse this are regurgitating talking points that they've heard that they have no understanding of. So
I want to ask you this, Joe. If you were to, so the purpose of this live stream is how to do research on a crypto project. If we were to make it like into a list of what you think are key things to look for, like use case, blockchain. Is it on its own blockchain or is it a token? Like, what would you put on that list that you would look for in a project?
That's what we're going through right now, right? So utility.
Yeah. But I'm saying, like, personally, like, do you have like a 5 things you would look for kind of thing?
Yeah. So I would say, like, what's the market potential? What's the product, and how many people are how many people are currently using it? If it's been in production for some time, what's the potential more people would use it? What are the current competitors in the space? So are there competitors that are non-crypto? Does it actually need to be a cryptocurrency project to survive? Which is something we can elaborate on for another half hour. However, what's a minimum viable product, right? What does it have to be at minimum for people to actually care about it? Does it have to be automated? Does it have to be on a blockchain? Does it have to have an application? If you stripped all that away and just gave it the very bare minimum service, actually, Leron Shapira writes about this ad nauseum in his blog. And although he's a crypto hater, I really find that it's enlightening. Always take everything everyone in this space says with a grain of salt. But the minimum viable product, what does it have to be, and is there demand there? If there is, okay, now you add the app, you add the automation, you add possibly the blockchain or the crypto side of things. Now, for it to be with a cryptocurrency, why? Why does it need a cryptocurrency rather than fiat money? So another project that I really like, Althea, decentralized internet. If I have a good place to pull in direct internet access line, and I can create some sort of point-to-point link, whether it's providing, a router or switch, and I put fiber or Cat6 cables to my neighbors so they can buy internet, and then they can send it to someone down the street. Or there's a point-to-point radio shot to bring in that internet. But basically, the basics of it is that it's like you pay per gigabyte of bandwidth that you use, and if you're able to provide internet service to someone down the road, you're now earning for also providing that link to someone else. Bandwidth sharing, you may say. Now, this has been done without cryptocurrency in the past. This already exists for other projects. So do you necessarily need crypto for that? Do you necessarily need your own layer one blockchain? You're going to find that a lot of these layer one blockchains, Helium's a good example of this. It's a massive time and resource sink for a project itself. Developing blockchains is very hard. There's a lot of complexities. There is a lot to get right, not just with the tokenomics, but the underlying technology itself. And there are so many blockchains in existence as of right now, or maybe not blockchains, but similar behaving technologies like Hedera would be an example of one of them. It's Hashgraph. XRP is another one that's not necessarily a blockchain. Ripple, right? So why aren't you using Ethereum, Solana, Cardano, maybe even Bitcoin in some instances? There are so many to use. Why do you need your own blockchain? Is it just to say you have a blockchain?
I think a lot of them. I think for a lot of them, yeah, it's like, hey, if we have our own blockchain, we'll be able to build more hype and grow the project faster and whatnot. Which is too bad because there's perfectly, as you said, there's layer ones that work perfectly fine on which you can build on top.
Yeah, and maybe the layer one doesn't fit, but maybe you come up with a layer 2 or 3 solution that you can build onto that layer one that fits. So does it necessarily need a blockchain in itself to survive, to be a viable project? I wouldn't say so. You can use smart contracts on a layer 1 or a layer 2, like Cardano would be a layer 1 smart contract, right? Our layer 2 to facilitate whatever the use case it is, whatever interactive technology that you have for your product. But it's going back to minimum viable product. What services are you offering that people care about? And would it still be valuable if you just had the core meat and potatoes of that project? And then another one I look at is the tokenomics of the project. Now, this is something I haven't necessarily nailed down yet, because the different projects I've seen thus far, they've all had a little bit different behavior, and you also have to take into consideration their methods of earning the token price, the different entities or groups that they're being paid to. So a lot of them, you'll see there's specifically tokens that are given to validators, a percentage of tokens, or another percentage that are given to what oracles, or maybe some other sort of network devices that are there. So with Flux, 50% of the rewards for each block are given to the mining side, which are the GPUs that are facilitating their specific layer 1 blockchain, where the other 50% are divvied out between the different nodes that are providing that the computing and storage resources for those, like what would basically be a cloud service. So how is that divided up? How much are the founders and investors getting of that? Then you go to, is it still profitable before and after the halvings, and even throughout the bear market? We know it will be profitable throughout the bull market in most cases, but during those peaks and the lows, how is it going to play out for the people who are hosting that equipment on the network? And that is something that, like I said, I haven't been able to nail down, but you can usually, just by looking in the Discord and looking at those factors, get an idea of how things are going to work as the tide washes in and out. Another one that is huge is public relations. I think it is front and center. I think it is 50% of the battle when it comes to not only a business, but a cryptocurrency specifically, which we've seen some projects here really get wrong, and that be detrimental to their cause. No matter how good the product might be, it's a community-driven project, right? You need miners, you need people who are going to contribute to your network, and many of the developers, many of the leaders will just say, I don't care what these people think. I don't care what they say. You're either in or you're out. And if you're out, good, bye. That can really rub people the wrong way. And your biggest supporters, who are going to be out on the forums, out on Reddit, out on Facebook groups, defending the project that you're creating, are going to be your core community, that are your miners, your earners, the people that are providing this hardware or buying your hardware, whatever it may be. So public relations to me is huge. That is what is going to change or dictate whether the perception of your project is that it's a scam or something that's actually viable.
Well said. No, I totally agree with all that. And you were talking about like public relations. When you're talking about that, do you mean like how a brand communicates with their community?
Definitely.
Okay.
I mean, how are they keeping people engaged and involved? Okay, so are they hosting community calls? Do they have a website that spells out A to Z what steps you need to go through to set up your equipment, to optimize earnings, to understand how the ecosystem works, to redeem your earnings, etc.? What are the developers and the leadership like? Some of these people in the Discord, they're loose cannons. Never mind them leaking the roadmap and generating hype through that. I've seen some of them say, even behind closed doors, when they think nobody is going to screenshot the crap that they're posting in that Telegram group, they say bullshit that when it gets out, it hurts the project. It hurts public perception. It hurts the morale. Even if it's in the Discord, if a CEO or a developer is fighting with the everyday troll that comes into the group, that could be detrimental because that echoes throughout the community.
Absolutely.
I mean, we can definitely see like usually the best projects don't necessarily have time to communicate on those channels, or they have someone in the marketing team that is responsible for those channels, but they won't answer to every single message because they're too busy building, you know?
And that's where the community comes in and answers some of the questions for them. And that's like the best case scenario, is when your community is so involved that they're actually helping you out. We've seen, I know me and Joe have seen Discord servers that have shut down and changed them into like announcement only because they just weren't good with their community. They weren't good with communication. It's just some of these projects, they fail strictly because of their communication skills.
Mm-hmm. No, certainly. I think it's huge. If this is going to be a crowdsourced, community-driven product, then the community should be front and center. They are going to be your biggest supporters, the biggest drivers of this project. That's it. End of discussion. And if that's not the way the CEO and the leadership sees the team, I really don't want to be part of the team, because personally, I do believe, I said, rather, I don't want to be part of the project, but certainly not part of the team, because you're going to fail. That's just how it is. Those people are going to be the ones talking about your crypto project more than anyone, getting the word out, making the Twitter posts, fighting with idiots in the Facebook groups, on the Reddit, and in the Telegram about the factually wrong information. And if you don't have them on your side, you have nobody. You have your announcements on Twitter and maybe on Reddit, and your few moderators that are going to do that work for you and be pissed off the entire time.
Thoth just made a good point. He said they can claim to have several different departments, giving the illusion that they are big, but in reality, it's just like one or two people. And I think, to name drop here, I think Revelfi was kind of like that, where they kind of denial of responsibility, push it off to the support team, and the support team is also them. And that's all speculation.
Oh, yeah.
We don't know if it's true, but they act like they don't know anything, and this is, you got to reach out to support, and it's like, dude, there's nobody in the company. It's just like you now, because you pushed everyone away.
And look, just because you're not a technical person and you might not be able to read code or understand the different fundamentals behind networking, whatever it may be, you can still do the very basic due diligence. You figure out who that team comprises of, how engaged they are, how much effort they're putting in on a daily basis, and where are they active at? Back to public relations. Are they on the Reddit? Are they in the Telegram groups? Are they in the Discord? Are they everywhere communicating with their base and getting that knowledge out? And what are their jobs? What are they actually doing? Who do they have working behind the scenes? Now, this brings me to another point where you talk about whether a development team or their leadership team is doxxed or not. And when we say doxxed, it just means we know the faces and the full names behind it. And in many cases, they may or may not be. And you have stuff like Jesse Eichel and the Obsidian Council, where we see people who they don't want to dox their developers and their leadership necessarily, because look, these people get death threats, they get targeted hacks, they're targeted in all sorts of ways that we've seen affect crypto projects in the past. Like, they'll go to a developer, say, hey, we're going to offer you a job for $200,000 if you jump ship. Here's a PDF, sign it. And that PDF has some sort of keylogger in it or some sort of executable that ends up grabbing the keys to that project, and they drain the liquidity pool, whatever it may
Absolutely.
be. So it's not all black and white where, okay, they're not doxxed, they must be a rug pull. Not necessarily. So there are options to register with these other entities that they do keep track of who's involved in that project, and they audit the code. They audit the smart contracts. They audit the people and interview them to make sure that they're doing what they say that they're doing. But sometimes for me, it's really like, did the leadership put their names out there? Do they get on camera and talk about it and assume that responsibility? And if they do, typically that's good enough for me. Any thoughts?
No, I mean, I was going to say stuff, but you just kept like hammering my point. You just like you were saying all the points I was thinking of, but yeah, I mean, they can go with a third party KYC too. If they don't want to dox themselves directly, there's plenty of trustworthy, well-known companies out there. And it's kind of just like an intermediary. Wow, words are hard. Between, the public eye and your information. So in the event that something happens, let's say you scam the entire company, which I don't know why you would KYC if you're planning on scamming people. Then this KYC has full rights to submit all of your information to the authorities or publish this information and try and make things fair for the people that were involved.
I mean, I think that's a really good thing. For me, like when looking at a project, I love the fact that they have a public team or that they're KYC, because it's just like, if they try to run off, we know who they are, and we can actually do something about it.
Like, look at FTX. Could you imagine if that was an anonymous person?
Did you see even
man.
2 days ago or something? They seized $700 million from SBF again when he said he was down to his last 100K.
Yeah, last 100K is still quite a bit of money. You can live like a king in some
Not
countries.
when you've been a rich boy your whole life.
Yeah, that's true.
All right, another thing I look at when I'm looking at different crypto projects is how many tokens are you actually mining with the project. Now, this is where I get into my grievances with MXC. How many different tokens are there and what do they do? You might even be able to say the same thing about Helium, right? Okay, so if you have multiple tokens, and in the case of Helium, you get IoT for mining on the LoRaWAN side, which is coming in the future. You get mobile for, call it mining, but it's really earning in both cases, earning on the 5G side. And then you're going to have these different networks. And theoretically, it's a good plan because it helps pump more overall data transfer into the HNT Helium Network token. However, when I have to redeem HNT with IoT tokens or mobile tokens or the Wi-Fi tokens, the decentralized VPN tokens in the future, CDN, whatever, does that bring another taxable event? And in many cases, yes, it does. Now, can you send it right to the exchange and redeem those tokens directly? Possibly. But that brings into this sort of balancing aspect. Let's say I want to hold on to the tokens that I earn because I believe that there is going to be much more value down the line. But now I have this taxable event that might take 20% away from what I just earned, only to hold on to it and have another 20% taken away, give or take.
Yeah.
That's problematic for many people. Where going back to why is the first reason you're redeeming HNT? Well, because right now, the amount that I can redeem with IoT might be more than I can redeem later on because the mobile token is going to be able to redeem more and cut away at the value of what IoT can earn, right? And I have a whole video on that, so I'm not going to get into it. I'm just talking as an example. However, that's something you have to consider when you have these multi-token level sort of tokenomics. But the two different tax event becomes problematic. Then you get into this other like MXC. You can supposedly mine 3 different tokens, but we have Bitcoin mining. That was a bunch of BS. They're paying out with Bitcoin for whatever.
Yeah, it's a staking program instead of mining.
Yeah, whether it's staking or not, they say that they're settling some sort of transactions, a multi-pathing in the background. Okay, maybe. I doubt it, but let's just say for the sake of argument that is the case. But are you really mining Bitcoin? Now, the other 2 tokens, you have MXC and DHX. Neither of them actually have any utility as of right now. And although it says on the roadmap that there is going to be utility, do you really know that? I've seen projects like Deeper DPN. They've had their roadmap out for 2 years, development for 2 years, which is sucks. Okay, this is just going back to the overall talking about, finding a cryptocurrency, a good project. So they haven't been able to really follow through anything substantially on their roadmap for the past 2 years. Now they have 2 tokens. It doesn't logically make sense that, because you have multiple tokens you can mine with a device, that it's actually going to be better than a project where you only mine 1 token that actually has use case and a utility. So
that could be
the point I'm getting at. Just because it has multiple tokens you can mine, it doesn't mean that it's a better project or that actually means anything.
Joe, now that you're talking about it, I'm wondering if MXC added the ability for Bitcoin to make their projects seem more legitimate.
That's probably what drives people. That is, I would. What did I call this? It's a great sham. It's a great gimmick. It's a gimmick where they say they're paying out in Bitcoin for settling transactions. They say, but the average person who doesn't understand crypto goes and looks at that and they say, well, I can mine Bitcoin and I don't need to do high powered where it's going to run up the electricity bill. I can do it with this small device, and I might not be making a whole lot, but it's still something. That's a gimmick. I think it's a bold-faced lie, personally, not the opinion of everyone on this stream, but something to look out for. There are a lot of gimmicks in this space.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's definitely not mining Bitcoin. The way it works, is you lock up some MXC tokens and you get back some, like a fraction of the pool they have available every day. So it's not actually mining.
That absolutely. That gets my blood boiling, as you can see.
Calm down, Joe.
That's a lot of the gimmicks that we see in this space. Okay, multi-token mining, but what do you actually do with the coins? What's the value behind them? Now, if you want to get into staking, because we're already talking about the subject, talking about it in the chat here.
The dual mining, no, I wish we could do that on any helium miner. I can't remember who made it available.
So that's the awesome thing about the helium miners, is that you're now able to repurpose it, and that is not up to Helium. That's up to the companies that want to put the development into it. So PiFi,
please, Bobcat.
It's not going to happen. I really don't think
with some of them. So if it is not a Raspberry Pi natively, like if it's purpose-built board, there's a possibility that the company that developed that board opens it up to being supported by another brand, by another project, but that is not necessarily a promise. You're relying on the company, and it depends on how much they have to kiss the boots of Helium. Sorry, I cut you off again.
So PiFi is looking to make a dual image so you can do PiFi and Helium. Still waiting to get that from them, but I was going to make a video on that. And there's a couple other tokens that you can do. And it seems like SenseCap is the most supported in terms of like aftermarket. But I really don't think it's that difficult to run on a Raspberry Pi. It's all the same if you wanted to do it on rack or minted.
Do you guys know what's in the Pisces?
I believe it's a Raspberry Pi. I don't know.
Click to open it up, right?
Could I open it up?
Yeah.
Go ahead and open it.
So it's a outdoor enclosure, so there's an indoor device inside, or is that it's all built into that?
No, this is the P100 they sent me, so it comes like this. It's like an outdoor hotspot.
That's awesome.
All right, let's keep going while you open that up, and we'll see. But if you have a Raspberry Pi device, there's a chance that you can repurpose it for anything, right?
Absolutely.
So anyways, let's talk about staking. And I think staking can be very legitimate in many ways. Now, there is like liquidity staking on exchanges. So if you were to do a decentralized exchange, you stake liquidity pairs and they give you a percentage back, which in the vast majority of cases is legitimate, because these decentralized exchanges, they don't have all the money and all the liquidity to provide up front to their customers who want to swap tokens. A lot of these tokens aren't supported by the big centralized exchanges. So that's where you'd get these small cap tokens that are very new. And the people, you can make a lot of money doing this. Once again, not financial advice. Be very careful when you do it. However, providing liquidity pairs and staking is typically legitimate, and that's kind of outside the realm of what we want to talk about. So let's talk about staking on actual devices. There's a lot of different, there's proof of stake, right? Proof of stake is certainly legitimate. What proof of stake is, it's once again a consensus mechanism, and what a consensus mechanism is supposed to do is provide that security between trusted players on a network where you can't game the system. You have some sort of skin in the game that would make you a viable player when it comes to computing the end result of that block and making sure that it's true even when you have nefarious players. So the reason why you would stake tokens on a validator is, one, to say, okay, you've bought into this system, you have enough value that you can't afford to lose it, because you may get slashed if you try to nefariously game that system and slide in some sort of faulty block, or maybe your validator isn't performing correctly. proof of stake, number one. Number two is because it's critical network infrastructure. So a validator would be considered critical network infrastructure. You have to have skin in the game to provide that validator. You have to keep it on the correct image version, having the correct firmware. You have to make sure it performs correctly, that you're using the correct hardware, that you maintain it administratively and in a proactive and correct manner, whatever it may be. So once again, this doesn't guarantee that anyone's going to be proactive about the way that they maintain their validators. As we've seen from Helium, when validators were stood up, that was taking 10,000 HNT, and at the time it was like 100 grand worth of HNT, and people were still not maintaining validators correctly when they've switched everything from regular to light hotspots. When you had to start opening ports on validators, there were numerous firmware pushes, etc. So that is a reason for it. And there are legitimate reasons for staking, as the ones aforementioned. There's probably some I'm missing here. Now, there are people who like to stake, and that signifies confidence in that token, where I know that the token is going to increase, or I believe the token is going to increase in price. I'm confident in that. I don't feel that I need to sell anytime soon, and I'd like to earn some interest on it. Therefore, I'm going to stake on whatever the reason may be. I'm staking whether it be liquidity pools, whether it be on a device itself. But once again, there are numerous gimmicks and scams in the space that I call Ponzinomics, not tokenomics, but Ponzinomics, where you're incentivized to stake every which way, because that is going to make the price of that token more stable, because many of the times these oracles will look at how much of that token is actually staked, whether it could be liquidified or not, where like many times when you stake, you're locked in for a predetermined amount of time. You know that those tokens, those coins aren't coming onto the market and being liquidified. So yes, it does drive confidence. However, getting back to my point, staking, MXC has 5 different ways of staking, but the things that you stake it on are not critical infrastructure. An MXC miner, I don't have mine, just like a Helium miner, I wouldn't even call it a miner in either case. A hotspot, it's not critical infrastructure, it's a broadcast network. It will take whichever hotspot it can reach for that path back to the LoRaWAN network server to be routed through the network to whatever database, whatever application it may be. But with MXC, you stake for every which way, and you also, if you withdraw your tokens, you're penalized. You can no longer earn as much as you did before if you cash out. So it doesn't necessarily make sense to me from that standpoint. I believe it's artificial inflation. It is, I forget the term that I used to describe it, but basic forced compliance when it comes to holding your tokens. You are disincentivized from selling because there will be negative ramifications when you do so, but you can earn more if you stake more, even if it doesn't actually provide any utility to the network. Any thoughts?
You're talking about MXC with all this, right?
We're talking about staking in general.
I agree with some of it, but there's also the side where you're just like, some people might not even care about the crypto side of a lot of projects. They'll just care about the passive income side. And
exactly.
I think in the end, I know you don't like MXC, right? Yeah. But in the end, if you keep it for a year and the market goes like sideways and doesn't go up, doesn't go down, whatever, you'll have your like return on investment inside of the year, you know? And some people just care about that.
That's screw stripped, huh?
Bro, this thing is not going.
They cross-threaded that one.
They don't want me to open this.
It's cross-threaded, I can tell.
Yeah, they knew you're a YouTube influencer, so they don't want you opening it and showing it to everyone.
You want to know something funny? They sent this to me without a contract, without anything. They would just like hit me up. We're like, what's your address? We'd like to send you a device, and then never asked any questions about content or whatever.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Okay, let's open this bad boy up.
Bring it closer to the camera.
Yep.
It's a Raspberry Pi.
Give me a sec. I'm just trying to.
It's a Raspberry Pi.
I'm just gonna get this thing off.
Yeah, that might just be a Raspberry Pi.
So I've got $100. That's what you're saying, huh?
What?
In front of me.
I'm not betting any money on anything. I have to look closer.
But,
so you know, that reminds me, in the audience, 619 OTA writes.
Yeah, that's a Raspberry Pi.
Yep, Raspberry Pi. So you can repurpose that for something.
So I could use this for Pi-Fi, huh?
Yes.
Yeah. You could spin up a Docker.
There are so many
containers on there.
I'm sure you can do a quick Google search. Maybe we'll make a video on it. You know, different projects you can repurpose your Raspberry Pi for, because there are a bunch out there right now that you can just use your Raspberry Pi and start earning, which is great.
Now, 619 OTA brings up a good point in his comment. He writes, a lot of projects want to stake X amount to play, deeper, pre-search, flux, etc.
Ethereum now.
Yeah, Ethereum. I mean, so what I write it down to is, one, does that return on investment actually make sense? Number one, are you going to get back your time's worth in money? Number two, does the utility of it make sense? Is it actually generating value when you're staking to have it returned? Or like what's the utility of what you're staking on? Are you just staking and they're saying we're going to give you gift cards like one project? Are you staking and you're getting a different token? Why are you getting that? Why are you getting that token or another token back or some sort of value back? What value are you providing in return for that? What service are you providing? If it doesn't make sense, I wouldn't do it personally, just because I'm not willing to entertain bullshit. However, when it comes down to something like, okay, let's say flux nodes, you have to stake 1,000 flux for a Cumulus node, which is your basic. You could do it on a Raspberry Pi, Jetson Nano, you could do it on a server, etc. In my opinion, kind of makes sense, because you would consider it critical network infrastructure for whoever's going to use that node for whatever service that you're going to host it on. Someone is hosting some sort of load there, some sort of application that needs to run, and if your device goes offline, then you just screwed their application potentially, unless it's mirrored between two different nodes. When we talk about other ones, like pre-search is another one. It's an aggregated engine, an aggregated search engine that takes from Bing, Google, DuckDuckGo, whatever. Your node is sending out those searches and returning that information. Would you consider that critical network infrastructure? Not necessarily, because if your node goes down, the network's just going to point it to another node to do that search. Deeper, this is the one that absolutely drives me crazy, because once again, I don't believe that it's critical network infrastructure. In theory, the way a VPN, a DPN, whatever you want to call it, should work is that if one node goes offline, it connects to another one. It connects to another node. It doesn't, because their software sucks. Actually, it just started doing that about a week ago, and I was given their chief whatever, their chief public relations officer some grief on Twitter over it. But is it critical network infrastructure? No. So their whole gimmick is, oh, well, you only need to provide 10 megabytes a day worth of bandwidth to whoever wants to use your IP address for the VPN purposes, and you also stake, and that's how you earn. Okay, number one, that's BS when it comes to utility. Only 10 megabytes cumulative worth of bandwidth utilized. So then what? Okay, now they have to find another node, whatever. So you're staking. What's the purpose of staking? What are you doing with it? There's no explanation. And if I've asked that, I've yet to receive an answer. Hey, I'm always open to someone changing my mind. But for that reason, I think staking in that case is BS. Oh, you want to talk about IO5?
No.
No, let's save it.
Been going for 2.5 hours at this point.
Yeah. We want to continue on a little bit more, another half hour. Then we'll do a follow-up to this one because we still have a lot of subject material.
I feel like at this point we might be better off saving it for a completely other video because we've gotten some people dropping off as well as some people don't make it in the morning streams.
Yeah.
I know you're traditionally doing nighttime stuff, so
yeah,
that's up to you.
All right, how about we go for another half hour? We'll make it a full 2 hours, and then we'll continue on to another. Which subject would you like to hit next? We have a whole list of them. We can do tokenomics. We can talk about the auditing. We can talk about token supply and circulation.
Oh, I brought this up in a live stream before, but this is something to consider when you're looking at the price of a coin and you see people constantly trying to share all this information like, okay, Dogecoin is going to go up to $10. You can actually okay, bye, Joe. You can actually calculate the price that it could reach. And when someone says, okay, Dogecoin is going to go to $10, all you have to do is take the price that they're saying, $10, calculate it by the total supply, and that will get you the market cap. Now, if the market cap is over the total market cap of the entire crypto market, it's not going to happen, at least in a reasonable 5 to 10 years. That's something to consider when you're looking at any new project. Where they're like, oh, we're hoping to get over $1 or whatever, $5. You can do the math, look at the total supply, times that by the price that you think it's going to be. It's going to let you know if that's a reasonable estimate that the price could actually go to. So a good example, you can take a look at helium, which went all the way up to $50, and now it's all the way back to $2. You can expect it to go. It can go back up. You're muted, SMOKLM.
Oh shit! Sorry about that. Yeah. It's at like $3 right now, right?
Yeah. So like what 619 just said, helium to $100. You could take $100 times the total supply, and it might not be reasonable. Take that same mathematics, which is very basic mathematics that people don't seem to understand on Twitter and whatnot, and do that with honey, which is
do it with SHIB. Do it with SHIB. Trillions of tokens.
You
and
can't
people
do
are
that.
buying it like it's their fucking retirement.
Well,
if it goes to 1 cent, I'm going to be sitting out on whatever, Hawaii. I'm going to retire to, come on, give me a break. Sorry.
The issue, you can't calculate it with something like SHIB because it doesn't have a max supply.
But there are trillions of tokens in existence, so it will give you somewhat of an idea.
589 trillion. So when people are saying SHIB to 10 cents, it is literally not possible. There's a reason. Yeah, there's a reasonable limit that it could get to. And so I was going to say you could apply the same thing to honey. I don't know if the honey token is on CoinMarketCap yet. It is. Okay. It's at 9 cents right now. It's at 9 cents right now. If we want it to be $1, that's what, 100 billion. It's 100 billion.
Yeah. And consider what that would have to be when it comes to actual utility. So look, now I think it was only like 3% of the people in the world are invested in crypto right now, if even that, or I'm not even sure it's that, but it's like the total combined market cap of crypto is like 3% of what Google's total value is or what Apple's total value is. So we have a long, long way to go over the next years, because if you're a believer, you believe that the money's coming here and it's staying here, which I do believe. So yes, we will see a rise in prices, but back to the point I was making about honey. So for the CEO is saying, and I believe this is even in the docs, it's a $300 million a year economy when it comes to mapping. That's its utility.
I think it's way bigger, because like I know Uber Eats alone pays around $20 million a year to Google Maps.
Yeah.
So Amazon must be doing it as well, and then we've got all the other delivery services.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, we're probably
let's say it's a $1 billion a year economy for the sake of argument. Now there's many competitors in this space, so how much of the actual business is Hive Mapper going to take? Let's say it takes 20% of the business away from Google Maps and whatever other mapping services there is. So you have $200 million a year flowing into
the global digital map market size is valued at 19.13 billion in 2022. So if you're looking at 20%, you're looking at like 4 billion, right?
Oh, 4 billion. So let's say that 4 billion goes into mapping theoretically. All right. 4 billion goes in every year. And we have how many tokens? 10 billion tokens that are going to be minted over the next, I don't even remember the entirety. Basically, their tokenomics is based on when the entirety of the areas of interest and map itself has hit completion. So you have to take those two factors into consideration when you're even trying to project what the token price is going to be and how much value is pumped into that token itself, which is something that is currently beyond my capabilities because I don't have the entirety of the information in front of me right now. So you can try to make those projections, but you have to consider what is the actual economic value, how much of that economy that you are going to take from that's going to be pumped into value through that utility.
If they were able to get $2 billion worth, it would value the coin at $5, just for everyone listening. And $2 billion is a lot. That is a massive market share to absorb with especially breaking into a market that already has established dominant competitors like Google. I think Apple uses Google now too. Then there's ways. There's not a lot of mapping platforms that are so precise and so accurate with the information that they put out year over year. And Google has satellites too. Like they're just it's going to be very hard for Hive Mapper to break in. And if they were able to break in, I think it would be closer to like what was it, 20%? Did we just say?
We said 20%. Yeah.
I think it would be closer. I think they'd be lucky if they had like a 1% entry into it, because it's a hard entry to break in, a hard business to break into. But as time goes on, like look at Uber when they first entered, everyone's like, no, like we're just sticking with taxi cabs, and it took them several years to actually get dominance in the market, and now it's just completely flipped. I don't think we're going to see complete flippage, but I think
Hive Mapper will definitely be able to make a place for themselves.
But you have to look at what their specific I'm lacking the word for it. What makes them better in the competition in just that one area?
Advantages.
Yeah. What are their advantages over the competition? Well, the advantages in this case is that there is constant updates.
Map freshness.
Map freshness. There you go. Spells it out. So
yearly.
Maybe there's a company that needs that immediate data that Google is not necessarily able to supply. Well, they have part of the economy right there. And then you have to look at, so sorry, I keep cutting you guys off, but earnings. Okay. So if, let's say that what you just calculated, Chris, it was 1% of the market.
20% of the market would make the coin $5.
Okay.
That would be crazy, because imagine earning like I remember on Explorer the first couple of weeks I saw some dude earning like 7,000 tokens a week.
I think $5. Maybe I did the math wrong.
If it was at $5, what's like 5 times 7, 28? That would be like $2,800 a week.
Yeah, well, I just earned 4,000 tokens for maybe 6-7 hours of driving. So
that's
crazy. You have to realistically think about it. Now that came out to be that's over $400 worth when it's currently between 9 and 10 cents.
That's definitely paying for your gas and insurance, and a little bit on top to like take a Tinder date to the restaurant or something.
I might have messed up the math. It might be 20 cents. It might be 20 cents.
Let's get that math correct.
No, it has to be $5. It has to be $5.
Their token, their map credit's like 2 cents, right?
Yeah.
So if they own 4 billion, 20% would be like 4 billion. I mean, I like where it's sitting at right now. 10 cents is already great, you know. If we could go back to like that, it launched at like 30 cents, I believe, when someone made a pool for it on Radium.
43 cents is the all-time high.
Man, so that would just be.
Let's we'll have to come back with some more hard calculated math on this next episode if we want to elaborate on this. But let's move on to helium, for example. So before the whole 5G outbreak, we were talking about IoT, and for a 24-byte packet, you're paying 1,000th of a cent. That's 0.00001. $0.00001, right? You would need an absurd amount of devices on the network transmitting pretty consistently to actually make the token price increase drastically, right? And there is what you would call an equilibrium for burn to mint when it's talking about utility use. That immediately, when I made those calculations coming in to the helium ecosphere, I realized that the potential there is very small. And that's why I've slowly but surely continued to bring up the discussion. We can increase the price from 1,000th of a cent to 100th of a cent, maybe 1/10 of a cent. I wouldn't go that far, but that's tenfold the earnings that are now pumped in through utility, making the use case on the IoT side, or the utility earnings case on the IoT side, that much better of a shot to actually bring value to the token. The token value as of right now is pretty much propped up by speculation, in my opinion. Now, when we are going through, and I have a whole video talking about this. This is one Chris and I did with Travis, but all the reasons that happened during that bull cycle, why helium pumped so hard, there was 8 different reasons that you could name off. Those are other things to look for. So we had number one, the speculation because of use case. IoT is a huge economy. Number 2, people couldn't buy the devices, but they wanted to get in on the game, so they bought helium. Number 3, you had the listings on the massive centralized exchanges because there was so much interest. Number 4, there were validators that were stood up that took 10,000 tokens per validator to stand up, which then took the supply, took tokens out of supply and locked them up. Less liquidity. Number 5, there was a halvening. I'm not going to remember all the reasons.
Stimulus checks.
My own video.
That's already
stimulus checks.
Yeah, I mean, stimulus checks. People buying into it. So there was a bull run. Reason number 6.
Foscoin.
So there was burned and data credits spent for the equilibrium. So you had the onboarding of all these hotspots that there was a $50 fee that the manufacturers had to pay, and that further caused that equilibrium wheel to spin, which the oracles of Helium take that into consideration for calculating the price. And then you had major speculations when it came to the new product offering, which was CBRS, aka Open 5G, right? So there's your 8 reasons. That's why the token pump. That's something to any of those reasons looking for in a in a project. You can kind of speculate where the price is going to go a little bit. Okay, those type of conditions, those type of events actually play out more as a multiplier rather than like a micro factor. They hit harder during the bull market, during the super cycles than they would otherwise, where you usually just see a small pump. But when there is massive demand and speculation, you're going to see them play out much harder, affecting that actual token price.
Yep. No, yeah, 100%. But I do hope that it goes back to all-time high, you know? That would be really fun.
I think there is a good chance that it will.
Yeah, I think so too. It would be
Another
fun
halving?
Yeah, we have another halving coming up.
When's that? Like next year, right?
That takes that because there's not as much being mined. There's going to be half as much being dumped on exchanges, further driving up demand. There's something else I also want to mention, which is a talking point that I hear passed around the crypto community quite a bit that I don't find to be true. And it's that, there's a limited supply that can be minted. And outside of that, that's it. There's a limited supply. That might be true with Bitcoin, certainly. But when it comes to other ones, that can certainly change. That's not always the case with every token. Sometimes you can rearrange the contracts to create more tokens long term. It depends on the contract and how it's written. But there are, in certain ecosystems, it's almost like a need to change the tokenomics. And we've seen this with Helium twice, where the leadership and the devs wanted to go from they took a vote that was like making one HNT into 1,000 HNTs, which would cut the price by 1,000th, but it would make people feel better from a psychological standpoint, because they like to own a whole token rather than a fraction of a token. Therefore, more people would buy, more people would spend money on the exchanges, and that'd be great for people overall. And to me, that was almost like going against the spirit of crypto. It didn't sit right with me. Like, you're changing tokenomics midstream that people had already bought into this model, whether they want to acknowledge that or not. You're changing it because you can with the improvement proposal, and that's going to bring everyone more money. Yay. But then when they introduced more technologies to the ecosystem, so 5G mobile, that's another one. Tokenomics changed. And it's great that you can introduce more data transfer, more money being spent on these data transfers over time through VPN, CDN, Wi-Fi, DABA, these other technologies that they may stand up within this ecosystem. But we've seen the massive FUD that occurred due to changing of the tokenomics. People literally felt that they were being rug pulled. That goes back to the whole public perception, the whole public relations. Why I say it's 50% of the battle.
I mean, personally, one thing I hate with Helium is the way we vote. Voting on like the size of your holdings. Someone might not even be in Helium the day before the vote and just be a whale, buy like 100,000 tokens, vote, and like change what's happening in the ecosystem and sell the next day, Yeah. We've talked about this before, but I would have preferred it to be like I'm saying more decentralized, but not really. It's still like by the size of how many hotspots do you have? How much are you doing for the actual network instead of just like what is the size of your wallet?
And that's another. We're probably going to talk about governance and decentralization in the next stream. However, that's exceptional point to make, which is like, who is actually going to be voting on what is proposed, and the way that these different projects propose. Like, it's much like politics up on Capitol Hill for us, but there are tricks that are going on behind the scenes to see whether something gets approved or not, and what's the likelihood that people vote yes over no, and will it be worded in the way that people want to vote yes, right?
I mean, it's like, for instance, the redenomination, the going from one token, splitting it 1,000 ways, that got voted yes, and a couple months later they redid a vote where they wanted to actually not do it, and for some reason it got voted no, and
What's
that's
that?
just
The redenomination?
yeah.
Oh,
Didn't that-
they voted yes for redenomination. That
Yeah.
actually passed overwhelmingly, but they had to, once they decided, okay, we're going to divide it up between sub tokens, that's when they had to do a vote to repeal that, which once again passed. Now, either way you want to look at it, what's done is done. The point I'm making here is, just because that is the way it's spelled out in the roadmap does not necessarily it's going to play out like that. And then the people who say, well, you can't change the max supply, you can't change how it's mined and the payouts, that is not always the case. That is a fallacy that people buy into when they're new to crypto.
Yep.
We've been going for a while. I think this is one of our best streams yet. I think it's the best stream yet, personally.
This has been really fun for me, just talking and stuff.
Oh yeah.
Guess who decided to join, Joe? Try Diggy.
Thanks,
Already
Try
got-
Diggy.
Timed him out. He's
Thanks for timing him out. I was
a
seeing
known troll. He
Gotcha.
comes on mine and Joe's streams and just tries to clown around. But
Gotcha.
man, I am very hungry.
I'm hungry too for helium and other tokens.
You know what I'm about to do? I'm about to go map some more.
All right. Well, you want to wrap this up then?
Yep. I appreciate you all being here with us. SMOKLM, thanks for joining. I hope you'll join more live streams with us.
I'm down,
I know
man.
we usually do it during the evening for us, which is like
4 a.m. for
absurd
me.
time. Yeah.
Like right now it's perfect. It's like 9 p.m.
Mm-hmm. So until next time, we'll see you there. We'll try to do another day stream so we can get SMOKLM in here again. He has a lot of good insight. Chris does, as always. And yours truly, thanks for joining. See you on the next stream.
Thanks, guys.